Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to recap all the Express Entry rounds and news in July 2024. July was an action-packed month in Express Entry with a lot of invites and rounds and updates. So let's get into it. Before we start, my name is Madhur Parashar. I'm a regulated Canadian immigration consultant based in Vancouver, Canada. If you would like to get in touch, my email ID and my phone number is right here and in the description. So let's get started. So July was a blockbuster month which broke all the records of 2024 in terms of number of rounds, number of invites, and so on. So let's take a look at this chart. So we had 9 back-to-back invitation rounds in Express Entry on July 2nd, July 4th, 5th, 8th, 16th, 17th. So basically every few days we were having another Express Entry round. So overall we had 9 rounds and almost 25,000 people were invited for permanent residence. Now this is way higher than what is normally IRCC's average in any particular month. So for example, IRCC usually invites between 5 to 10,000 people per month, on average around 70 to 100, but 25,000 is like more than triple that average. So if you look at this chart, you'll see that between 5 to 10,000 people. And June was particularly very quiet. We had only one Express Entry round in June, and that too was a PNP round. So no category based, no general draws, nothing. So this was a huge bounce back from a quiet June. Maybe that's why July was so massive, because they didn't do anything in June, so they were kind of trying to catch up on it. Maybe that's why. So anyways, let's go back and look at what IRCC did. So we had 2 Canadian Experience class draws, 2 PNP draws, we had 2 French category draws, and we had category based draws in trades and healthcare. So 9 draws. Now let's start analyzing these draws one by one. Okay, so the biggest happy news of all these draws was the CEC draws. Basically, CEC draw is for people who have 1 year of Canadian work experience, high-skilled Canadian work experience. So these draws give an opportunity to people who are in Canada or have Canadian experience, but who don't fit into the occupation-based categories, or who don't have enough score for the general category, or who don't have PNPs, because all those 3 are difficult. So CEC gave them quite a bit of good news and a pathway to become PRs. So that is great. However, the negative side of it is that despite these large draws, so these draws were pretty large. One was 6,300 people and the other was 5,000 people. These are massive sizes compared to IRCC's usual draw sizes. Despite these large draws, the score came down a little bit, but not by a lot. So it was 522 in the last CEC draw in May. It came down to 515 and then 510. So the scores are not coming down as quickly. Will the CEC draw continue? Yes, CEC draw will definitely be a frequent occurrence in Express Entry, but will the scores keep going down? I don't know. That is highly doubtful, because there are so many temporary residents, people on work permits, students, PGWPs, spousal open work permits. They're all acquiring Canadian work experience and getting in the pool. So the pool is going to remain competitive. So less than 500, highly doubtful, unless there are several draws back to back, massive draw sizes. Who knows? We'll have to wait and watch what IRCC does. So that's it for the CEC draw. Then there were 2 French category draws. Now French draws, as you might see, are getting smaller and smaller compared to the beginning of the year. In the early part of the year, there were blockbuster French draws, 7,000 invites at 388 CRS cutoff score, then 5,000 at 390 or something. So that was ridiculous. How come, like, the French-speaking people were being invited at ridiculously low cutoff scores, and the draw sizes were so large But now it has reached a more stable level and the draw sizes are getting smaller. Why is that? Because IRCC wanted to invite as many French speakers as possible in the early part of the year, so that by the time they complete their PR process and they arrive and land, it will still be within 2024 and IRCC will be able to meet their quotas. Now that we are in the second half, IRCC has slowed down the French invites. And the people who are getting invited in the French category will most probably land and become PRs in the next year. So they'll fall under the next year's quota. So French draws will continue to kind of stabilize or go down over time for the rest of the year. And maybe the scores will also keep going up gradually. So from 380s, we've gone to 390s, we saw 420, now we are at 400. So scores at some point will keep increasing. So if you are interested in learning French for your PR, now is the time to start learning and get those French points before these cutoff scores start climbing too high. Okay, let's talk PNP draws. There's not much to talk there because PNP draws will keep happening. PNP draws clear out all the people who have provincial nomination. The federal government is bound by law to invite the people who have PNP nominations. So whatever happens to other draws, PNP nominations will keep going. So not much surprise in terms of PNP draws. In terms of occupation specific draws, we only had healthcare and trade occupations. Now it's a bit of a mystery, right? People here in Canada, they say that, okay, we have shortages in trades, we have shortages in healthcare, we have shortages in all kinds of occupations. But when the draws happen, then the healthcare and trade draws are small. They're not as big as the other draws, and they're not very frequent either, right? If you think we have shortages of workers, then these draws should be more frequent, but they're not. So what is IRCC thinking? Why such small draws? We don't know. We just have to wait and watch with what happens. The draws that did not happen were STEM draw, agriculture draw, transportation draw, and so on. So the most eagerly awaited draw is of course the STEM draw, because people are, especially people who are outside Canada, a lot of them are in tech occupations. So they're eagerly awaiting, when will the next STEM draw happen? Now, first of all, there is no way to predict when will the next STEM draw happen. However, since so many back-to-back draws have happened and STEM has not happened in several months, so there is a high likelihood that there would be a STEM draw in the coming month. Who knows what will happen? We'll have to wait and watch. But one thing is for sure, if STEM draw has not happened for so long, then definitely whenever it happens, the cutoff size of that draw, the cutoff score of that draw will be very, very high. I might expect it in 490s and maybe even touch 500. So we hope STEM draws catch up soon. Now, here's another interesting thought. So, as we all know from politics, from news, from social media, there is this growing anti-immigration sentiment in Canada. People want to cut back. The politicians want to cut back. The public wants to cut back on immigration. But at the same time, there are these blockbuster months where 25,000 people get invited. So how do you reconcile these two things? Well, the reason these two opposite things are happening is because, if you notice, the CEC draws are converting people who are already in Canada to permanent residents. So if you want to bring down the number of temporary residents, the government's approach is to convert them into permanent residents. So then they can say, oh, the temporary resident number went down. Yeah, well, that's because you converted them into permanent residents. So it's a bit of a trick they're playing. But yeah, that's why these big draws keep happening, because A, the labor market needs it. There's shortage of healthcare and tradespeople, and B, these big draws are converting people from temporary to permanent. So they're relieving the pressure from the temporary population. On the ground, it doesn't really make much difference, but it's a nice little hack or a backdoor trick that the government has found. So expect these draws to continue. And plus, Canada does not want to let go of its high-skilled population. For example, people who have been working here, software engineers and STEM people and people who have jobs, it makes no sense to send these people back to their home countries because they have a high chance of being successful in this country, right? So that's why I expect these draws to continue. But who knows what will happen? August might be another blockbuster month, or August might be a disappointing month just like June. We'll have to wait and watch. On this channel, I will continue to update you with the latest draws, the latest breaking news, and more and more Canadian immigration content. So please like, share and subscribe to this channel. I will see you in the next video when I have another update for you. Thanks.